Good afternoon, family and friends. My name is Robin, and got it. I am Gretchen's. Wait. Got it on? That's on. It's on. Okay. I'm Gretchen's older sister, slightly older sister. I'm the middle girl of the three Wagner girls. Clear? Okay, there we go. Awesome. I have to eat the microphone.
That's max on the
Yeah.
volumes.
Anyway, I really want to thank you all for coming out to honor our sister, our wife, our friend, our aunt. She was a very special, wonderful person. And I was searching for music on Alexa. I've been doing that since November the 5th. And Alexa presented this to me. And I thought, this is the perfect song. Because the first time I remember really loving somebody and knowing what that felt like was in November of 1952. My mama had been gone for a while. I was told she'd gone to have a baby. And my grandmother was staying with us and taking care of us. And then my mama came home and she had a tiny baby. And she said, here's your sister. Go sit down in the rocking chair and you can hold her. She put a pillow on my lap and put the baby on that. The baby was sleeping when she put her down. And then I was rocking her, she woke up. She opened her eyes and she looked at me with the darkest brown eyes I'd ever seen, because all the babies, the baby kittens, the baby puppies, and the babies in the neighborhood all were born with blue eyes. She looked at me with the brownest eyes I'd ever seen. And looking into her eyes, I fell in love for the first time. Now, we grew up a little bit different than kids grow up today. We lived in a semi-rural area of suburban Arcadia. We had big fields behind our house. We had trails we could run on. We were very close to the mountains. We could jump down in the storm drain through the city sewers and go for miles down the storm drains, and nobody had to worry about us until we were not home before dark. And we were always home before dark because our mother's whistle carried about 2 miles, and we knew if we heard that whistle, we had better run. I know somebody who's heard that whistle. There were 3 of us, and even though we were about 5 years apart, we were very close because we were really the only girls in the neighborhood, and we were friends with each other. And there was the themes that run through Gretchen's life started in that neighborhood, and the themes were the out of doors in the mountains, dogs, horses, cats, and just generally being out there having fun. Our mama dog never minded when she crawled in the whelping pen with the new Springer Spaniel puppies. She helped me deliver Siamese kittens on many occasions. And then down the street, there was a big old standard bred horse. His name was Kipper, and his girl had outgrown him. And so our sister Bonnie had the privilege of riding Kipper anywhere she wanted to ride Kipper. And then what Gretchen and I would do was we would go down to Kipper's corral. We would climb up the fence and sit on the fence till he came over to see us and get some of our apples and carrots. Then we would climb on his back one by one, and he'd trot very nicely around his corral for us. Then there was a tree that overhung the door to his stall, and he would go under that trotting under that tree, a nice standard bred trot. And we knew we'd better grab that tree and hang on for dear life and drop down. Otherwise, we'd get knocked off on our butts into the corral. And so we rode Kipper a lot. And then Bonnie got Fire Gold. Another girl had outgrown her Arab horse, and Bonnie got to ride Fire Gold wherever Fire Gold wanted to go. She was an Arab and a little bit silly. And Gretchen and I got to ride Kipper, got to ride double on Kipper, or I rode Kipper. So horses just run deep in our blood. And we had not just a real horse, but little plastic dime store horses that cost a quarter or 10 cents. And we made a ranch out in the front yard and in the sandbox, and we played with our horses day upon day upon day. And then because our father was learning to be a physician and he was working very hard at part-time jobs to support us, he was never home. And our mother decided that she wanted to be back in the mountains. So we went to the mountains every weekend, sometimes during the week on a holiday. We hiked up West Fork, we hiked East Fork, we camped at East Fork, we hiked Chantry Flats and Sturtevant Falls. And when Gretchen was born, we had a little red wagon, well, actually a big red wagon. And Gretchen got to ride in the wagon when she was too little to hike. And so Gretchen started her career in the mountains at maybe a 1 year old. And she was really so good and so interested in what we were seeing. She loved the snakes and the wildlife and everything that we could see in the mountains. And then one magical, wonderful summer, I was 10, and our mother had been reading about an organization called the Sierra Club, and that there was what's called a base camp, where you would go and you would camp for 2 weeks, and then you would have various excursions into the heart of the Sierra Nevada. And that first time, nobody was sure how we would do that 10-mile hike in and if we could handle it. So we got to ride horses 10 miles up the trail with the packers. And Gretchen was absolutely thrilled because she got her own horse, her little legs sticking out from the saddle. She was only 5 years old. And we spent the most wonderful 2 weeks in the summer. We made friends that we've kept forever and ever. And we went every summer back to the Sierra Nevada until we got married and grew up. Oh, got married and grew up. Yeah, we did that after we got married. But the dogs and the horses continued. When she was 12, she had been bothering Mom for a horse since she was 10. I want a horse. I want a horse. I want a horse. I need a horse. Because we would go riding at the livery stables down off of Workman Mill. And we'd go and we'd pay for 2 hours of riding, and we'd go out and ride the horses for 2 hours. But those weren't our horses. Those were stable horses. And when you turned around to come home, they wanted to come home bad. So when she was 10, she had stopped biting her nails for a year, and she got a horse. His name was Ebony Anthony, and he was a big, black, maybe part quarter horse, but just horse. And she rode Ebony Anthony, learned her first equitation and showmanship on Ebony Anthony. But she soon became too good a rider for him and for where she needed to go in the show ring. And so there were other horses. There was Daisy, a little bay mare who was just absolutely adorable. And then at one point, when she was working with our older sister, who had room for horses, they decided that they were going to breed the magic horse for Gretchen. And they bred a horse from Boogie Pat that she called Little Boogie. And she rode to glory on Little Boogie. Oh my goodness, she won the Hunt Seat Reserve Championship for the United States one year. He was absolutely a magical, magical horse. And then while all of that's happening, her marriage is falling apart for good reason. We won't say anymore. And what started out as amicable became very, very hostile. And he took half what he felt he was owed in the house our parents gave him and decided that she should sell that valuable horse, that he should go up for auction. So before that could go into a court order, she found a family with a little girl who needed a horse, a really good horse. And she took that horse, she took Little Boogie to Arizona for a 5-year-old, and Boogie fell in love. The minute Gretchen let go of the reins, put the reins down, he walked over and he kissed her and he followed where she was going. So no more horse. But in the middle of all of this, something else happened. Another kind of love was born. One day, my husband and I were going to San Diego Zoo with our youngest, who was 3. And we took Gretchen for the weekend with us. And we really had a wonderful time, except for the time the Black Panther tried to eat Becca. She was running by, and he was up on his shelf. And he looked down and he said, "Oh, that's a fat rabbit running by," and came and whacked his head into the front of his container. It was really exciting. Anyway, as we were walking around the zoo, she said to me with stars in her eyes, "Look, I don't quite know how to tell you this, but there's someone, and he's really special, but I don't know what to do about it, because he's also really young, and he's my nephew's best friend." And I said, "Well, let's put all of that aside. What do you think about this man, about this Jack?" And she had stars in her eyes, and she blushed, and she said, "I think I love him. I think he's the one." He really was the one. If there were ever 2 people that belonged together, it would be Jack and Gretchen, because it's hard to say Jack or Gretchen. You just have to say Jack and Gretchen, because that's the way it is. Now, something else that I didn't say about my sister, besides being lovable and wonderful and brilliant. She's also very spicy. So what my mother called our Jack, but she called him Saint Jack because he was the one who could turn away that spiciness with a soft word or a hug, or just learn to go around her and do what was needed without confrontation. Jack's brilliant, isn't he? Our Jack is brilliant. And when the house in Whittier was sold and Jack's job had come to an end, they decided they were going to Idlewild. They wanted mountains. And they started buying homes in Idlewild and traded up to their big house in Idlewild. And Jack became a paramedic, became a firefighter, became an integral part of Idlewild Fire. And they were both, again, like they are here in Anza, an integral part of that community. Sometimes things happen. And on one Good Friday, April the 9th, our father died suddenly. And Mom had fallen quite a few times, and we knew she couldn't be left on her own. And Jack and Gretchen said, well, you can come and move into our big house with us. And talk about spicy. I'm sure she juggled her jaw. I wasn't here at that time. One night she said, you are coming to live in my house. Okay. So Jack and Gretchen picked up their lives and they moved into Granny's house. They took the downstairs for themselves and had Gretchen's business there and had their greyhounds there. And for 13 years, they took care of our mother with the care that you would want your own mother. Then they got some horses, but the horses had to be boarded. And boarding is expensive. So along with a big, huge mortgage payment, it was really hard to have horses too. So they started looking. Where would they go live? And they found Anza. They already had some friends here. And at that point, property in Anza was going for a song. They bought the Breaking Wind Ranch, moved in some new horses. They had first taken care of a friend's Percherons that were lovely, Poncho and Lucky. Oh my God, what neat horses. Then they got their Snippy and they got their Minnie and they had their Heart horses and they rode all over Anza, all over Southern California, everywhere that they could go with their friends, their backcountry horsemen. And they became as integral a part as of the Anza horse community as they ever were anywhere. And all of the things that Gretchen is and all of the things that she got growing up came together here in Anza with dogs and horses and chickens and Jack. It was, again, magical, just magical. But sometimes magic has to come to an end. And that's why we're here today. And I know that her spirit would go on. And I know she's still riding Devis. You know, it's all worked out that she's going to do her 100 miles. She's going to get those in. I'm really proud of Jack and Audrey and everybody figuring that out for her. And what I would say is, I will. It doesn't like that. I don't like each other.
Hello. Thank you guys all for coming. I don't know if I can do this. I thank you, Robin, for all that beautiful stuff. That was wonderful. I think of her first husband that she was talking about, that Gretchen had. He was the placekeeper. He just kept her for 10 years till I was ready to get married. So if he hadn't married her for those 10 years, who knows what happened. So I'm happy he got the half of the house and I got her. So I got the better end of the deal. Anyway, like I said, I just want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. She'd be flabbergasted at the turnout here. She had no idea all of you guys had so much love for her. And it's wonderful. And I've been so lucky to have all you guys and all the different communities, like Robin said, that the horses, the greyhounds, the Idlewild, the hiking, climbing, backpacking stuff that we did. It just, the Anza, everybody, the Red Shank Riders. It was wonderful. You guys have all been great. All the love and support that I've gotten since she passed away, financial and otherwise, I thank you all because I couldn't have made it at this time without it. Gretchen did many rides for the Red Shank Riders. They were quite adventurous trips that we did. She loved doing the treasure hunts, and she'd come up with these wacky stories and fun treasures for people to go find, and just had a blast doing it. Uh, anyway, like I said, thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Audrey, for putting together the Tavis Cup ride in Gretchen's honor this year. I know that's really special to her. She loved doing those rides. Always out saying, "Come on, we got to go get our miles in." So for everybody that's joined the Gretchen Ride group, let's go get some good miles. Again, thank you all for being here, and everybody online as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I guess my head's kind of cut off here looking at the camera now. Special thanks to Pebbles and Stacy. They were kind of in charge of putting all of this together today. I've spent the whole time basically since she's been gone going through all of our old pictures and slides, and I found so far, and I haven't quite made it through everything, but 2,118 pictures of Gretchen, and I think 2,000 of them are her backside. But there's many of them in there. You can see they're hanging on the wall. There's a slideshow that's running in there on the TV. And just so you know, on those cards that you have, if you scan that QR code, that'll take you to a file that has that stuff all in there. So if you don't get a chance to watch it, you can go sit at home and watch it on your computer or your phone or whatever. So that's all pretty much it. And thank Mike also for helping. We did a lot of work getting water and electricity over to the barn and putting the concrete floor in. And it wasn't all necessarily for this, but we kind of moved it along a little bit faster to get it done for this. And I just really appreciate all the love and support. And thank you all for coming. Does anybody else want to say anything? Alrighty, well, we have food and pictures. Oh, come on, Audrey.
Gretchen, I hope I can get through this. She and Boyle do better. Everything she did was better. We would do trail work. Just a little bit more. Gretchen, I'm tired. Just a little bit more. Lift that rock. Just do better. We would ride, and it wasn't riding just to joy. I mean, her flower talks, blue dicks, that flower, the Latin. It was like, okay, getting educated here. But we bettered our horsemanship. That's what it was about. Being better. Red Shank Riders, everything she did. She was always the first one to say, I'll do it. She was always she was the last one to leave. And it was always better with her. You're going to miss her horribly. The Tavis we're doing in her honor. Because it was always like, who's going to be the first one to get that 100 miles in? Who's going to do it? And we rode, 400 or 500 miles together. And yeah, Jack, pictures. Oh gosh, the man and his pictures. And just if anything you take from this, you just do better. Do better at everything. I mean, when she would do the treasure hunt ride, the details she would put in that. She'd get her little serapes, and then she'd have to paint the collars of the puppies to match the serapes. Nobody noticed that but her. But she did it. I mean, with her felt markers, every single one, she made it match. She put so much love and care into anything she did. She just was a talented, special lady. And gonna miss her horribly. They lived a life well lived. Nothing you can be proud of.
That's something else. Speaking of a life well lived, going through all these pictures has just shown me what a wonderful life we had. We had 15,050 days together. We're on our first date, and I never went home. We're still on our first date. I moved out of my parents' house and into her house, and that was the end of it. And it was so special. I wouldn't change anything that we ever did. We had trips to Hawaii, trips to the Sierras, trips to New Mexico and Colorado, just all over the places, and all the horse camps that we went on, Utah and up to Chihuahua Valley many times, just down to Cuyamaca, riding down there. And I'm so happy that we got back into horses. She didn't have a horse for 25 years. When we moved to Idlewild, we took our horse with us. She had a different horse other than the one that Robin was talking about, a horse named Tino. and we moved up to Idlewild, and it had a little corral that the guy had 2 mules there that we bought the house from. And we had Tino up there for about a year, and a neighbor moved a horse to a property that was the street down below us, and the 2 horses started hollering back and forth. And then one of the other neighbors called code enforcement and said, "Hey, there's not supposed to be horses in this neighborhood." And well, it turned out they were on horse legal property, but we weren't. So she had to get rid of her horse at that point. And again, it went to somebody at the Santa Anita racetrack's daughter as an outrider. So then after that, we just got into climbing and houseboating and doing all kinds of stuff for the next 25 years. And luckily, our friend Sandy, Ron and Sandy are here, told us, you guys should join the Red Shank Rider. You don't have to have a horse to join. And there's people out there that have horses that you can ride. And so we did. And sure enough, she found a friend, Ann York, who lived just down the street from where we are. And she had a bunch of endurance horses that needed exercising. So she got back into horses and ended up giving Gretchen one. And that was the downfall for us. So anyway, again, thank you all for coming. And I'll let you get out of the hot sun and go get some food and have a good day. Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you. Unless there's anybody else. You want to say something? Okay.
Since everybody's being shy, I guess I'll talk about Gretchen a little bit. My name is Susie, and I've known Gretchen and Jack for 40-something years. And I would like to thank Gretchen publicly for 2 of the greatest gifts in my life. And the first one is her sister, Bonnie. And Gretchen created the gift of Bonnie because I had a little shop trying to learn how to make shaps, and they were horrible. And then they were bad.
They were bad.
They were bad. And the guy at the leather store was so sick and tired of me bugging him and asking him how to do stuff. He said, just call Bonnie. So I did. It was like calling God. And she answered the phone and I said, I was wondering, and asked her a few questions. And she said, just come over. Again, an invitation from God. But I didn't know that the reason she asked me to come over to see what she was doing and maybe help her was because Gretchen was gone to a horse show. And because Gretchen was gone to a horse show, Bonnie invited me over, and that sparked a huge turning point in my life, shaped the entire rest of my life with both Bonnie and Gretchen and Jack and the assorted characters, some of whom I see today, that we developed this little business that I had all together, and it turned into a neat thing. And Bonnie and Gretchen worked with me and near me and for me and all sorts of things. And Jack and Gretchen started making products at their house that we then sold through the shop, and they were so innovative and so clever and always figured a better way to do something and just invented things. And of course, Gretchen's work is amazing. Every time I go riding now and I put on my helmet, I feel like she's holding me and keeping my brains out of the dirt, which is perfect. So the first gift that Gretchen gave me was truly her sister and the group of us together forming this really cool little business that helped support a lot of people for a long time. And the other gift that Gretchen gave me was more recent. With Jack, they rekindled my spirit and love for riding. I bought some more horses, kind of got back into it after a long hiatus, bought a horse trailer with a little dressing room so maybe I could go camping, those kinds of things. And just signed up to do the Tevis 100 miles in 100 days, which never would have happened otherwise. So deepest thanks for Gretchen and her influence on my life, and Jack and Bonnie and the extended gang as well. And wonderful to see lots of people here today who Gretchen touched in so many different ways. Thanks.
There are many people here today that are mule people. I have a mule story. The trip that the mules ran away, and I had probably 20 people with no tents or sleeping bags. The food had been pushed in by the packers, and they'd gone back out to get the rest of the gear. And some Boy Scouts came along to see the mules in the meadow, and the mules ran away. So here we were. This was the first trip that I had cooked for in the Sierras as a backcountry trip. I had enlisted Jack and Gretchen to come along as my help and moral support. And what do you do with all these people with no tents, no sleeping bags, no pots and pans or stoves to cook in? And there you are. First night,
25 people.
How many?
25.
25. One of whom was a very old man that was 85, 90.
Yeah.
And
Had a stoma.
Had a stoma and spoke with a pipe there. And if he had fallen in the stream, he would have drowned to death. Gretchen took him under her wing and helped him hike the whole rest of the trip, which was awesome.
He had glaucoma too. He had tunnel vision. He could only see a little bit in front of him. And he kept the first couple of days, he'd show up at camp and his knees were all bloody and couldn't figure out what was going on. He said, well, I can't tell the difference between a rock or a root or a shadow. And so Gretchen walked in front of him and she said, step up, step down, rock, root. And then if there was nothing, he knew he could just go. And we were strong. We were hiking many miles at that time with heavy packs. And we were up in the Sierras doing this light stuff. And he finally said, can you guys go any faster?
Jack and Gretchen were my salvation. Jack hiked up the stream, found a grate that somebody had used to cook on, brought that back down, a couple of coffee cans that we used for billy cans to boil water in. Like I said, the food was already moved in there. We found some boil-in-the-bag rice in one of the boxes, some cans of canned chicken, opened that up, heated it over the open fire. Anyway, we fed these people for a couple of days. The next morning, I hiked out with an empty pack with three other ladies, and we went back down to the pack station and brought in as many pots and pans as we could possibly carry and cooked over an open fire. Finally, the leader took Jack down the hill. No, did he leave you there?
I went down with you, and then he went down the next day and talked to the packers.
And Jack got made assistant leader very fast because the assistant leader on the trip was an old man that I knew and had had surgery on his back, and he started having back spasms. So one of the first things the mules did when they got up there with a horse was to take him out, and Jack became assistant leader. This was just a big fiasco, but it got put back together. The rest of the food finally got brought in, the rest of the pots and pans, and we turned this into a trip. It was supposed to be move one day, have a layover day that you could go out and climb peaks, hike, do whatever you wanted. And we ended up staying in a couple of different camps was all for most of the time. But it turned out to be a wonderful trip because the people got so close and were so bonded with each other from what they had been through that it was one of the neatest trips that I had cooked for. And thank goodness for Jack and Gretchen taking Norton under their wing and taking care of him, because that would have been something else that could have potentially been very, very, very bad. So anyway, I've always been very grateful to the two of them for helping me do that. I have continued to cook for backcountry trips. That I did my last one, I think, the year before COVID. And I'll tell you what, that first one was an eye-opener. Why I ever did it again, I'll never know. One of the things I did as a tribute to my sister was I contributed to the Pacific Crest Trail Association. And any of you that feel compelled to put some money somewhere to a very good cause. She loved going out with them. She loved doing trail work, and it's a wonderful organization. Anyway, thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Bonnie. Anybody else? Okay.
Also hoping I can get through it. No one's mentioned Gretchen's great skills in family planning. And we got to know each other through climbing. And after many years of friendship, one Christmas time, this amazing package showed up in the mail. And she had handmade Christmas stockings for my husband, Carl, and I that were in the shape and form of a Fee-Ray climbing shoe. And they were works of art. Immediately amongst our most treasured possessions. A few years go by, and pretty soon I'm having my first child. Another package showed up the next Christmas with yet another Fee-Ray stocking. Another couple years goes by, and there's another package, but this package had a note. These are a pain in the ass to make, and if you have any more children, you are on your own. So we stopped at 2. And every year those stockings come out, and they are as treasured as they were from day one.
Anyone else? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go eat. It's like,
Flowers are just gorgeous. Okay. Right.
Yeah, with the because I can it's like you see like regular jogging.
Yes.
Yeah, there's another one that's even further. It's like it's quite a bit longer.
and I got a book for you.
Okay.
Let them and then you won't have to worry about her doing her thing. You basically you let them do what they want. You do what stuff.
All right.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I do need to do a better job at taking care of myself. Like,
Miss you guys.
Well, that's a good thing. Then I will have your chips.
Hang on a second. I need to stop this recording.